Okay, we should be good now. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. Lots of crazy stuff going on this morning. Um, I uh, uh, I got a little off track. Let me put this on, and then we can get down to business here, and I can get my head kind of wrapped around where I'm going here. Hang on a second. I need to mute the audio on this particular feed. I know that it's coming through. There we go. And put my mic on here. Sorry, I usually have this done. There we go. Is that on? Is it just, no, it's just laying there. I missed. Completely missed. Okay, hang on. Did I get it there? Yeah, I've got it there now. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, way behind this morning in being ready. I had to get a couple of base orders boxed up this morning because I need them to go out today, and I have a doctor's appointment this afternoon, and I'm going to right after I get done with the live stream here, I'm going to go to my medical appointment, and nothing's wrong. Don't worry. But I need to I got 2 orders in this weekend that came in after my mailman picked up on Saturday. So I need to get those. I got them boxed up this morning. I should have done it this weekend, but I didn't. But I got them boxed up this morning, and I need to have them with me when I leave so I can drop them off at the post office for shipping. What else is going on? Just a lot of little things that I was trying to get done. And anyway, I didn't get as much done this weekend as what I thought I was going to. At least if you look at, pardon me, my nose is itching. At least when you look at my Friday live stream and see what I kind of said I was going to do this weekend, which was, oh, I'm going to clean up the shop. It's a mess, and blah, blah, blah. I got a little of that done. So it wasn't a complete waste. I did get my a couple of my bins that have all of my scrap wood and stuff. I got those hauled around to my backyard and put into my burn barrel. I have a burn barrel that I use. But I did get sidetracked because I need to make something this week. I can't make it on stream because I can't do a big part of it on screen because it's a gift and I don't want the person that's going to be getting it to see it before it's done and given to them. So I have to kind of be careful about that. But I was doing prep work for it in the form of testing. And I'll explain in a second here what I'm talking about. But before I do that, I'm going to look away, and I'm going to come over here, and I need to add the other streams because I don't want to leave any comments unnoticed. So I have to kind of come in here and turn my streams on. I really need to get a paper towel and wipe my hands off so I'm not getting blow all over my my computer. For those who are not in the know, blow is boiled linseed oil, which is what I have in this container over here. I was just putting some simple finish on a, yeah, there it is. Can we watch that, please? Putting some simple finish on a project, and click to expand. Yes, please. There we go. And anyway, so I've got boiled linseed oil on my fingers, but I need to also get my windows open here. So let me open my Twitch and get that opened up, and then I'll separate my channels out here, and then I can move on with my life, which would be good. All right, there is, I don't need this one. And is this silenced? It is silenced. So, okay, so now I have everybody in their place here. I just have to move my windows down to get them separated so that they can all live in their own little space. Hang on just a second here. We'll do this one. Boop. And one more. Oh, hang on. I'm going to move this one over. There we go. Oh, hang on. This one is not correct because I can't see. I need default view. There we go. So I can see the chat windows. And one more coming up. So I hate doing it like when I'm on stream. Oh, stop it. Why did you just do that? Oh, for God's sakes. Hang on. I think I just hit the whatever button. Can you go back, please? Can we go back to my stream, please? Can we watch my stream, please? Thank you. And anyway, so I usually like to have all this stuff done before I get on because you don't need to be watching me do this. That's not why you come here, hopefully, just to watch me fumble around with Windows and such. But it happens. All right, I've got all of my chats open now, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So feel free to drop in and drop a comment, say hello, you know, tell me what you're up to. Tell me what you did this weekend. I'll tell you what I did this weekend. It was hot. Man, the heat came back. And let me tell you what, right now, where's my little thermometer? It is 80 degrees in the shop. I will not be out here for a long time today because whew, it is going to be warm. I've got a couple of fans blowing on me. And so if you hear a little noise in the back, I have my noise canceling on, so it kind of kills most of the fan noise. But every now and then, it makes a rattling noise and that might come through. So I apologize for that, but it's freaking hot. So it's just gonna be that way for right now. Anyway, so this weekend, I was gonna clean the shop and do some other stuff, but I got sidetracked because I have a gift I need to make. And I had an idea for it. And I just got all this wood last week, right? And I was like, oh, you know, I'd really like to use this, and I'll kind of show you, but I'm not going to show you the other side because I've already done carving on it. But this is the, what is this? Can't remember what I got here. This is hickory. Really, really hard. It's hickory. I've already carved on the other side here. And I'm not going to show you that because, well, I don't want to ruin anything. But anyway, my plan is I'm going to make a sign on my CNC. And normally the way I would do it is I would just do something like this, right? Where I would carve it out. And I don't know, I got this camera on here. Let's see, is this camera on? Yeah, it is. So I would do something like this where I would carve it out, right? And then I would, I don't know, like use a lighter wood or something, or come in here. There's a pocket in there, so hopefully you can see that. And then I would spray paint this. I would just like mask this out with tape or whatever, spray paint the letters, and then sand off the top, and then, you know, it would be like a contrasting thing. And while that's kind of cool and stuff, I was like, you know, I've got this CNC machine and I don't necessarily use it to its full potential. I should try something else. And that something else is an inlay. Now, I have done inlays before. I'm getting crap inside here. It's bothering me. I've done inlays before, but it's not like that. I've done a epoxy inlay where basically I make the pocket like this, but then I just fill these with like colored epoxy, right? And then sand them down and you get a really kind of cool look to it. But I wanted to try something different because I've got this CNC machine. I can make the cool letters, right? But what I really want to do, hang on, I'm going to rub a little, this is boiled linseed oil, by the way, and this is mahogany, and look at what it does to this. It just makes it look gorgeous. You can't beat an oil finish on on dark wood. It just, even boiled linseed oil is just spectacular sometimes. But what I wanted to do was do wood inlays. So this is a wood inlay. This is cherry inside the mahogany. So isn't that cool? I've already got it flattened down, so it's very flat, you can see. Very flat. The fit was pretty good on this one. And the reason I've got this pocket over here is that I was going to try, so within the software itself, there is a tool. I use an X-Carve, which is right there. That's my CNC setup right back there. And the CNC setup has a couple different tools that you can use to, I gotta lay this out, hang on a second. Has some tools that you can use to create inlays. And they're kind of automated. So what you do is you pick your shape, and then you go in and say, okay, with your shape selected, you go in and choose automate, and then there's some options and things like that. So let me see. I'm going to try something really quick here. So because the rest of the show has been so goofy, I figure why not? Let's just keep the goofiness going here and see if we can just get it. Let me get this out of the way because this has got stuff on it, and I don't want stuff getting all over my stuff. So, as I said, boiled linseed oil is great, but it does get on things. All right, I am going to try to switch to another window here, but it might take me a second. Give me just a moment to set this up. I'm going to go to my my web share, but I need to make sure it's sharing the right window. So you don't need to see the back end of my OBS. So let me go in here to my window capture and make sure it's capturing the right window, which should be, hopefully I can find it here. That's not it. Okay. Oh, maybe display capture? Let's try that one. Is that gonna be it? No. Window capture. I've got this. Do I have this open? I do have it open, so I'm not sure why it's not doing it. So hang on just a second. Window capture. There we go. Okay. That's what I want you to see. So this is what I see when I go into Carve. Let me come back over here and I'll just kind of run through it. So sorry, sharing is kind of one of those weird things where it's hard for me to get it set up sometimes because I have to choose the right window and stuff. But anyway, this is what I see when I go to Carve. This is my setup. So I use Easel, which is the default program for the Xcarve. You can use other carving programs like VCarve, VCarve Pro. There's Aspire. There's a lot of them that will create the code necessary to carve on a CNC machine. Typically, you're basically sending something called G code, which is telling the X, Y, and Z of the spindle or the router or whatever you're using to which way to go, where to move, how high up and down to go, which pattern to make. So it's sending all those directions to the machine from the computer, and it does that from a language called G code. The Xcarve has its own program to use called Easel, and that is this. And Easel, when you get done and you send it to Carve, it will send all of this information from what you've done over to the Xcarve, and then it carves it out. I like this because it's a very low barrier to entry. It is not really hard to figure out. And it gives you the opportunity to be creative. I mean, to go to that whole next level, you really need to jump up to something like VCarve. But that's like I don't know how much that program costs. It's a lot. It's a couple $100 at least. And then you need the computer to run it on and stuff. And generally, I run my stuff on a really dinky computer that's attached to my CNC machine. It's not a really big, beefy computer. So I could do all my stuff on another computer and then send it over to the little computer. But this is so much easier. So Easel is a web-based program. So you need to be hooked up to the internet, it's a browser-based. And so some people complain about that. I don't mind because then I can actually work on it on any computer in my house, and I open it up over here and my files are right there. I don't have to transfer anything or whatever because it's all cloud-based and they're right there. So, and I've got internet connection in my garage. My router is right on the other side of the wall behind you. So it doesn't go very far. Anyway, so let me show you what I've got here. So on the left, I think that's on your left. On your left-hand side, what you're seeing over here is these are the patterns that I would be carving. So this is what I did for this little sign that you see over here. And I need to tilt this up so that stuff dries a little bit. So what you're seeing is a pocket And that's what you call when you actually carve out the area, the entire area. That is called a pocket. There is also an area up above here. This would not be a pocket. This would be, so let me take this one and move it out to the side here. So if you're going to be making the letters that go inside, right, then you need to do this, where it would basically just do the outline of the letters, so I can show you. So those letters will fit inside of the pocket that gets carved out, right? Now this is not set up for that. This is actually a very thick piece of wood, so I think this is set to like 3/4 of an inch. The other thing you need to do is set the bit size to the correct bit size. This should be a 16th. And it's across the room as I'm looking at it, so pardon me if I can't see. But this would be a thinner piece of wood. But let me show you how you get here. So the way you get here is, I'm going to delete this one. Oh, can I delete this from here? Edit, cut. There we go. And I'm going to delete this one. Edit, cut. Okay, I'm going to put this one back in here. This was the original one, so I made this little file right here. I'm going to just do the cut depth so you can see it. If it's white, that means it will not be cut by the CNC machine. As my depth gets dragged down, it controls how deep that pocket gets bored out. So you can see over here, that's a pretty deep pocket right there. For the signs, I usually do about 1/8 of an inch. So it's not very deep at all. But what you're going to do is you make your design, whatever it is on here, and you're like, okay, that's really cool. That's what I want. But I want to make an inlay. So it has an inlay generator. So I select this, and I come over here to the little, I think this is it right here. Let's see. Yep. And then right here is my inlay generator. So when I click on the inlay generator, it gives me these options. So first is the bit size that I will be using. And the second is a tolerance. Now this is where they tell you, oh, well, you need to play with this and figure it out. The default tolerance is 0.003, so that's 3/thousandths of an inch is the tolerance, and that controls how tight the inlay pieces you're cutting out are to the pocket that you've carved. You want them to be pretty tight. You don't want to have big gaps around them. Because, well, then you've got to fill those gaps with something, because they're just going to be loose edges. So the smaller the tolerance, the tighter the fit. Now, I was watching one of their videos from Xcarve on easel on making inlays and such, and they had their tolerance set at 0.002. Now, they were using a different machine. They were using an older machine called a Carvey. It still uses the easel software, so the program is able to move from their older CNC machines to even their newest ones, their pro models and stuff. It still uses the same easel software. But every machine setup is slightly different in that the tolerances for one may not be the exact tolerances for another machine. So the default tolerance is 0.003 of an inch, 0.003. They had theirs at 0.002, and I was like, and they're like, oh, this is our tolerance that we use, and they get a really nice tight fit. And I was like, well, that's cool. Let me try that. I did try that, and it didn't quite work out. And I'll show you the result in a second. So that pocket I showed you a minute ago on the back of that wood that has my last name on there, and where it's just the pocket, I actually carved out letters to go with it. So when you get your stuff done, let me show you. Let me just finish the process. So when you have your tool path and everything else here, I don't know, let me check this. It defaults to an 1/8 inch bit, which is 0.125, but in reality, what you want is a 1/16 inch bit, that's what I'm using, to minimize, so 0.0625 is 1/16 of an inch. And you really need to make sure that you've got that bit size set up right to match the bit you're going to use, because that controls how detailed you can get with your carving. And I'm going to import this. So what this does is it actually creates the pocket code and the outline code for carving the actual letters. And it puts it all in one place. So I could actually take this for the moment. Let me move this to the side. Hang on. Let's do this. Okay, I'm going to move this to the side for a moment. This is the original one right here. I don't need this at the moment. So I'm going to move it off to the side right here, and I'm going to change its depth to 0. So when I get ready to carve, it's going to say there's nothing to carve here, and it'll ignore that. Then I would take like this one right here and line it up on here and get it centered, right? And let me take this one and move it. Oh, stop it. Move it up out of the way. I'm going to set this to 0. So that one's not going to carve. Okay, so basically what I'm left is this, this first pocket right here, right? And I would have that at like 1/8 of an inch. And then that would give me this area right here. You can see, I can move this around, and you can see that pocket that it carves right there, right? Then what I would do is make a copy of this, and then I would drag, and it would basically give me all 3 of these together, and then I would just move this outline onto the piece of wood, which would be a thinner piece of wood, but the exact same specs, a 16th bit. You can't change the bit or anything. So a 16th bit, it would just be the thickness of the wood would be different, and then I would cut the outline. And so let me, and then you go through the process of getting it all lined up and everything else, and then you cut it, and then you press the pieces into the finished piece, and you're all good. So let me come back now to here, and I'll show you kind of the result of that. Wake back up, computer, so I can make sure everybody sees what I see. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to be left with a pocket like this. I'm going to bring this camera over here. So you get a pocket like this, right, with your letters carved out. And then you should have all of your letters. So here we got a little alphabet soup right here. So I've got all the letters that were carved out. This is basically that same piece of cherry that I used for the other side. So now I did this one with a 0.002 tolerance. I changed these letters to be the same tolerance as the demonstration on their video, because the first one I did, which was this one, right, they fit pretty nice, but there were some gaps in here, and I was like, well, I don't really like the gaps. I'd like to get a tight fit so that I basically have to kind of like tap them in with a hammer, and it's a super good fit with no spacing around the edges or anything. And so when I went to their 0.002, which is basically a thousandth of an inch difference. And when I did that, what I found was that none of these letters will now fit in the pocket. They're too wide, they're too big. I can't get them in here. They do not fit. The other ones fit right in. These do not. So that was way too much of a tolerance change. That thousandth of an inch. And remember, it's exploding it by, I guess what it does is it makes it larger and then makes the pocket smaller. So between those two, I ended up with pieces that don't fit this pocket. And I was like, well, okay, so 2000 is not going to work for me. And that was kind of disappointing. Now, here's the thing. What I really should do, because this takes a long time to carve. I mean, just the pocket for this, you're using a bit that's a 16th of an inch in diameter. It's really, really small. And that 16th of an inch has to carve this entire pocket, and it has to do like 1/8 of an inch deep. And so it takes a lot of passes to make that, you know, it keeps getting bigger and deeper and bigger and deeper until it has one letter and it moves on to the next one, right? So that takes about a half an hour to carve this, right? That's a long time. And then the letters don't take as long because they're just outlining. But the letters, I think, took about 7 minutes, 8 minutes, somewhere in there to do the letters. What I really should do is pick one letter and a block of wood and have a nice piece of wood there, pick a letter, and then I should say, okay, here's 0.003 tolerance and make a cutout, like a pocket, and then do a carved letter and see how they fit together. And then say maybe do 0.028 and then 0.0028 and then 0.0024 and then 0.0021. I need to make some tests of different tolerances, and I need to go through that program where it creates those different files at different tolerance levels and then pick out what is right for my machine. And that way it would take less time in actually doing the carving, because you have to set the machine up every single time. You have to go and set it up and find the 0 point and level the bit and all this stuff. So it takes a while to set up for a carve like this. And so what I need to do is just pick one letter and then make those with different tolerance settings and stuff. But anyway, I wasn't too upset with what I had with a 0.003 for right now. What I ended up doing on this particular one was not that one, this one. So what I ended up doing, and you can see there's really, it's really nicely done. There's not any spaces to look at in there. So hopefully you can see. There were some gaps. And what I did was I sanded a spare piece of this mahogany and got a whole bunch of mahogany dust. And then I filled in the gaps with CA glue and then took the dust and rubbed it all in so that the dust filled the cracks and was mixed with the CA glue and made a nice filler in there. You can see I still have CA glue on my finger with dust on it. That'll come off maybe in a month. I should have worn gloves. I did not. But anyway, that's where I'm at right now. So I've got a 0.003. And because I've kind of got a time crunch on this project that I'm making, I decided to go ahead and do the carve at 0.003. But I would like to do some testing later just to see what my best tolerance should be for my machine. I have a feeling it's somewhere like somewhere in between the 002 and the 003. So a 0023, a 0026, somewhere around there is probably my best option. But because of this time constraint that I'm under, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to go with the 0.003. So I did the first carve. I've got the pockets carved. I'm not showing you because I don't want to give it away in case they're watching. But I got the pocket carved in the hickory. But what I need to do now is I need to make the wood that the letters are going to come out of. This particular piece of, well, you can see this is how thin the wood was, right? It's pretty thin. It's a piece of cherry that I took way down in thickness to get these. And I need a piece. What I'm going to do is on that hickory is I'm going to have a walnut piece I'm going to use for the letters. So all the letters will be walnut inside that hickory, which I think will look freaking awesome if I can get it done. That means I need to get a piece of walnut cut down to the size that I need. So I stepped off camera for a second because I'm over here at my wood pile because I have some walnut. I bought some walnut the other day and I'm looking at the walnut and here's what I got. So this piece of walnut right here, it's not too shabby. And it smells like walnut. It's awesome. I love the smell of walnut. Anyway, I love this piece of walnut, but I don't need a piece this large. So what I need is a piece that's about 6 inches. And let me, secret squirrel, look at my stuff here. So I need to find my ruler is what I need to find. 6 inches in width, which I believe would cover my letters, and it will. And in length, I need 15 inches in length. So I need a piece that's 6 inches by 15 inches, which is no big deal. 15 inches. That would put that right about here. This is more than 6 inches wide, I think. It is, it's 7. So I need to shave about 1 inch off of here, cut this piece out, but then what I need to do is flatten one side, flatten an edge, and then I need to go over to my table saw and resaw a veneer, a thin veneer that's maybe 1/4 inch thick, that I can then shave down a little bit more, get it to the depth that I want, and then it will be the right size to make the letters. Because you don't want to take a piece like this, make the letters super thick, and then you have to knock them down in size after they're cut out to be letters. You might as well start with a thin piece of wood, cut thin letters, and then have them just be a little bit thicker than the pocket you carved, so they stick out a little bit on top. Then you can, you know, run them through you can sand them off, you can use a plane to plane them down, you can do all kinds of things, but getting it a thinner piece of wood to start with, definitely the way to go. So I think for my plan, what I need to do is get the piece of wood that I want to use, which I think this is fine. And I need to cut off my 15-inch piece of wood. I'm going to be wasting some walnut here. It kind of makes me sad, but it is what it is. Because you know what? Sometimes, you know, you just got to make that plan and stick with it. So right about here, let me make a mark here so I can see where I need to cut this off. So right here. And then once I get this done, I'm not going to set it up to cut yet because it takes a while and I don't want you all to have to watch that anyway. But the other thing is the CNC is loud and you wouldn't be able to hear anything because my noise cancellation would kick in and that would be horrible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off right here. And then I'm going to take it over to my jointer. We're going to make one flat face. Well, actually, what I'll do is get a straight edge on that piece. I'll bring it over to the table saw, get it down to 6 inches because then I can flatten a face on the jointer. And then what we'll do after that is take it over to the bandsaw. So there's lots of little things going on with this piece of wood. The first is to bring it over here and quickly cut this off. So I'm going to see, ooh, that's got a little bit of a, okay, interesting. Interesting. All right, let's just secure this thing. Hopefully you can see me over here, kind of over to the side. I don't want to adjust the camera for this because I'm going to make a one cut. One cut's all I'm going to make on this, and then that's all we're going to be doing on this corner. So instead of just changing my camera around for one cut, I'm just going to do it and then we will move on. I'm just getting the power cord and I am going to need, I don't want walnut dust everywhere. So I'm going to unhook my dust collection from my CNC machine for the moment because it was hooked up to the dust boot. Das Boot. I'm looking for the nozzle for, there it is, for this. So let's get this under here and hooked into the machine. Okay, I think we're about done. I'm just going to get my ears and then make a quick cut here, and then we'll go over to the jointer. And I need my remote. Dust collection works better when you can turn it on. Okay, so I now have my smaller piece here, about 15 inches, give or take. Hopefully give, not take. Let's see. Yeah, 15 1/4, which is fine. Now I want this to be thinner. Where's my good side? Right there. So I want this to be thinner than its current width, which is 7 inches, 7 1/8. You know, it's really. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take this over to, I'm going to look at my piece here. We're going to take this over to the jointer, which I think I have set up over here really quickly. And we're just going to make a flat edge because this is all very rough sawn stuff right now. So these are very rough. I need a very smooth and flat edge to run this through the table saw. So I'm going to take this and find, now this is not going to be my final edge there, but it's just going to give me a reference edge to run against the fence of the table saw. All right, so you can see here that that edge now is very smooth and very flat, right? And now what we need to do is, I don't have a camera set up for this because I'm going to be popping all over the place. So I need to come over here to the table saw, but I don't have a camera set up for the table saw yet. And I need to move my whole setup now. So I need to put the dust collection over here to the table saw, and I'm going to need the power over here to the table saw. So let me get all these things run up here. Doesn't take too long to rearrange. There's that. The only thing it's going to take me longer to do is to walk over here and give you a camera view. So let me do that really quickly. Zip. I'm going to come right down here. There we go. Camera 3 is your camera of choice. And now we need, so basically what I was doing was getting a very flat edge to put against the fence so that I get a true edge on this side. But really, so I get, by the way, this is the piece of cherry that I used. You can see how thin that is now. It's super thin. That was a cherry board that was much thicker when it started. But I'm going to set this at 6 inches. And that is going to give us our thickness. I'm going to raise the blade up. And then, let me see. Okay, so here's a fun fact. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's a cup. It goes like this, right? Now, the problem with running your cup like this, if I was planing this, I would absolutely want to plane it with this side down. But on a table saw, you do not want the cup facing down because what happens is as the blade cuts through the wood, it relieves wood out of this area, the kerf, right, where it's cut through, but then it relieves that pressure, and then because it's cupped this way, it will squeeze the wood down together, and that creates pressure on the blade, which can create kickbacks. So you never want to run with your board cupped down. You want the cup up. Now, it may be a little wobbly, but that's okay because when you put it against the fence, it's pretty stable. But now this will, now because the cup is up like this, when that piece gets cut off, it'll fall away. It won't pitch in. Like here, it would pitch in. Here, it'll fall away, okay? So, safety tip for the day. Keep your fingers intact. Keep pieces of wood from flying at you at supersonic speeds or whatever, you know. Just be safe. All right, let me get my remotage. I keep moving it around, but that's just the nature of things. And then we will make this cut. This won't take very long. And then we'll go back over to the jointer and flatten this thing out. Okay. You know, let me plug it in first. That's always a helpful tip. Table saws work better when they have power attached. Just a little helpful hint. I didn't know if you knew that or not. Wow, that was a tough piece of walnut, man. Look at the burn. See the burn in there? And this thing did not want to cut through there. And this is a really good blade too. So that was crazy. Get the burn on this side too. That's okay. But now I have a cup like this, but I can put that side down on the jointer and that'll work fine. There's a lot of like crazy grain through here, which probably didn't help. I'm just looking for the direction we want to go with this. Probably right here. All right, we're going to go over to the other camera, which puts me back here. And I'm gonna pull this out just to keep my dust collection going onto the floor and not into a box or something. I mean, yeah. Anyway, so now I can take this and run it through here, get a flat edge. That's our next step. Okay, that's weird. So just to kind of show you, you can see in the pattern here where it's actually slicing wood. So it was actually more cupped on this end. This end was actually kind of bowed the other direction like this, because I'm getting a slice out of the middle, but it's not touching here. But down here, it's touching on the edges. So this was a really weird piece of wood, not super flat to start with. But yeah, that's interesting. Okay, we're just gonna keep this going. It won't take long to get another flat edge here. Couple more passes. Okay, so now I have a really nice flat face. I'll show you here a little bit close up. So you can see it's really nice flat. And this is a good reference for me because I'm going to take this and put it on the bandsaw in a second. And then we're going to slice a piece of this off. But in order to do that, I want to make sure that this is now going to be sitting straight vertical. When I put it on the table saw, I want this to be sitting straight up and down, which means I need a nice 90-degree cut on the bottom of this. So let me see. Actually, I'm going to do this edge. Am I going to do this? I'll do this edge, I think. No, because when I run it through, okay, so here's the thing. When I run this through the planer, this is going to chip. If I run it through this way, I don't really have a choice. They're both going to chip. So I'm just going to do the burn side just for giggles. Unfortunately, I can't run it through on a side that's going to give me a really nice edge. Yeah, I got a little chip out there. I'm not really concerned because I don't need the edge. But the one thing I do want to make sure is that I'm getting a nice flat square thing. I don't know if it cut all the way across because this was already kind of flattened. So what I'm going to do is take my pen and just do this across there. And I'm going to go plane this one more time so you can see I just drew little lines on there, right? I'm going to plane this one more time, and if all those lines are gone, then I know that this is perfectly square. Okay, and all the line is not gone from here. It's almost, but not quite, so I'm gonna make one more pass. Okay, so I've removed all of that magic marker off of there. So now this should, if I take my square, should be perfectly square across that top. And that's what we want, is a nice 90-degree angle right here, because this is going to sit on the table for the bandsaw, and I'm going to run a line right across here, and that's where we're going to cut off of this thing. Now, to do that, we need to be over at the bandsaw. So I'm going to rearrange your view here for a second. Put you over at the bandsaw, and we'll get you zoomed in on that. Right there is where we're going to do the resaw. I will be moving the fan, but before I do that, I need to figure out where I'm going to make my cut here for the resaw. So let me get the hickory out of the way, and let me grab this. Let me wake up and make sure there's nobody in here trying to say hi. Okay, chat room is empty. So either there's no one here or y'all are very quiet today. All right, I need to get my pencil, and I'm going to figure out how thick I need to make this. If I make a cut that's about 1/4 of an inch thick, because here's the thing, this pocket that I made, let me check my pocket depth here. The nice thing about like this particular gauge right here is that, you know, it has the regular teeth right here, so you can measure like inside or outside, but it also has a little plunger right here, so you can measure depth by taking this and plunging it into whatever you need to. So for me, I'm going to take it and run it into the pocket here that I've made. Make sure it's square on here. And my pocket is 21 1/28. So that's crazy. So basically 4 millimeters or 0.1605 inches. And I will check that a couple of different places. So that's 0.18. And the reason being is I want to make sure 0.17. I want to make sure that 0.1885, 0.19. So that's a little deeper right there. 0.19. I want to make sure that this wood is thick enough to, when I insert it into here, that they're raised above the level, because if they're too deep, if this is too thin, they'll sink down below, and then that's not good. So I think this was my deepest, I believe. Come back here. Let me see this again. 0.199. So 0.2. So 1/4 of an inch is where I'm going to start this. I think 1/4 of an inch is a good spot for my wood to start at. And which edge did I did this edge. Yep. I'm going to also I'm just going to draw a little mark on here so I know which is my 90-degree edge right there. All right. 1/4 of an inch on here. I'm going to put this on the bandsaw and run it through like this. So I'm going to draw a 1/4 of an inch mark on here. I have this set up for about 1/4 of an inch right here. And then I can just basically just kind of do it like this, where I draw that line. So the pencil's just following that rule on here that's set for 1/4 of an inch deep. And then I get hopefully you can see this. I've got a line. You see that line that I drew on there? It's 1/4 of an inch right here. So there's a line right there. And hard to see. Pencil on walnut, very hard to see. There you go, you can see it on there. Pencil on walnut can be very difficult to see. But I've got that line now that I can actually use to make sure my blade follows that along. I will probably cut just to the outside of that line. And the reason is that because there's a kerf right? The blade of the bandsaw is not necessarily, all the teeth are not in a line. They kind of stick out like this. So they're cutting a little bit on each side, and they're very large teeth, so they scoop out a lot of wood as you go. But I'm gonna sneeze here in a second. Excuse me, I am so sorry. I sneezed right in your ear, hopefully not. I'm gonna mute myself and blow my nose because I don't think you need to hear that. So, weird fun fact about me, if I sneeze, I will keep sneezing until I blow my nose. It is the weirdest thing, but it is the way it is. All right, so I'm gonna come over here. I need to, unfortunately, turn my fan off and move it out of the way. Huh? Oh, okay. Have a good day, bud. See ya. And then I need to set up my fence and everything else. So I'm gonna put you on this camera right here so you can see where I'm at. I'm gonna move this out of the way a little bit. So in order to resaw this wood, you can see that the blade guides right here are way too low. So the first thing I'm gonna do is raise these up until I'm at a level where my wood will fit underneath there. Not much, just a little bit above that, and I'll lock that in. The guides, basically there's a push little bearing back here, and then there's two side bearings right here, and they just run and keep it going straight as possible. And then there's another set down below. And then I will set this up to run inside those teeth. So basically what we're gonna do is we're just gonna run this through like this, shave that piece of wood off and get a nice thin piece of wood out of here, right? I do not need this sitting up here. I'm gonna move it for a second. I have a fence. This table does not have a fence, a built-in fence. So I bought this one. This is a very cool fence. This is a Carter Magna Fence 2. So when you put this on, it moves all around, and then you flip these magnets, and I could lift this whole table up with those magnets. It is very, very stout. But they're just little quick little switches back here. You just flip these switches, and that makes the magnet good. And then you do that, and it turns the magnet off. I don't know how they work, but all I know is they work. So there's also another piece that I could put on here to make the fence higher if I wanted to. I find that this is the standard configuration is fine like this. Now I also use another tool for setting this up, and I don't have it out here. So let me grab that. It's just basically like a sliding square. And I use that to kind of get a uniform setting. Now I do vary as I feed my wood through, I will kind of vary it a little bit, but I like to get the fence set up pretty close. So I've got a little T-square kind of thing like this, a little sliding one. And what I do is I let that, there's a groove in here, there's a 3/4 inch groove on the side of the table right here. And what I'll do is I'll have this edge sit in that groove, and I put this and slide it in and out until, like right here by the blade, until it's basically just touching the fence. Now, because I'm cutting 1/4 inch off, I could actually measure 1/4 inch off of there, like that. And then I could bring the fence up to that. And what I want is I want that fence to be the exact same distance. What's wrong? Yeah, hang on just a second. I think it's in here. Oh, no, it's not. It's in the back of the Sorrento. Just unlock the door. You don't need to leave it locked. Just unlock it. You can grab it there. My son's going off to work, so he's going to take the dogs to work with him. Nice treat for the dogs. They like that. Anyway, I'm just getting a uniform distance to the fence. So I just basically push it up to the ruler. I'm going to lock this in down, and then lock this in down. And now this is basically 1/4 inch away from that blade. And then I should be able to put this up here and look at my line. Now, I did do a 1/4 of an inch, but I forgot that I don't want to be a 1/4 of an inch. I want to be just a hair over that 1/4 of an inch. Oh, and I'm going to blow my nose one more time. So, yeah, mute. It happens. Dust, things like that. Sorry. Anyway, what was I doing? Oh, yeah, so I'm going to go a little bit more than that 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to set this over just a hair more. I gotta undo this, get this out of the way. Slide this up until it's just past that 1/4 of an inch mark. And then I'm gonna lock it in, which you just has a little brass screw. All right, I'm gonna reset this up. I'm gonna kind of center it on here, bring it down here, push it in over here, and get this centered as best I can. And then lock this down, lock this down. Okay. The one thing that helps when you're resawing is that you got to make sure that your table is 90 degrees to your blade, because if your table's tilted, if your table's tilted out, you're going to get a trapezoid shaped piece of wood, not a nice straight cut. What I can do is try to check mine real quick and see that it is in line here. Now it actually looks like it's shifted a little bit. The other thing you can do is I've got my little digital angle gauge right here. I can set this up on here and say on, and then I'll zero it for the table. So my table is now, this is my 0, and I can see how much I'm out here. Putting it on here, it should say 90 degrees. It's 90 degrees. So I know that my table is 90 degrees to my blade. So I should get a nice straight cut. And I'm going to lower this back down so that it is in the correct position. Lock it in so it doesn't move. We're going to check the spacing. That looks pretty good. Really, all we have to do is hook this up and make a cut. So this is basically resawing your wood. I would do thicker cuts like this if I was resawing a wood for, I've done this, I did this a couple weeks ago when I was making them for book match tops for my sewing machine bases, where I wanted to take a piece of wood, there we go, and split it and then glue it together so you get a really cool symmetrical design. That's book matching. That's not what we're after here. I just want a thin piece of wood to use. And I don't want to spend 2 hours on the planer trying to make this piece of wood thinner and just getting rid of all this excess wood. I'll just do it this way and get it thinner. All right, I'm gonna put my ears on. Good? Okay. Wasn't super great, but it wasn't bad. I mean, I think we got the usable bits and pieces out of here that we wanted to. So if I was going to book match this, what I would do is, you know, I would take these two pieces and you glue them together, and then you get this really cool symmetrical pattern from the grain like this, and that's book matched. But we're not doing that. We just need this piece right here. You can see it's a much thinner piece now. So we've got a thin piece right here. And the other thing is when you do this and you cut this off, what happens is that you release pressure. There is pressure in the wood, like this has grain that's going this way. So imagine the rings going around like this, right? When you cut a piece off of here, you're releasing pressure in that wood, and it has a tendency to move. So while this piece was flat going through, it has now got a little bit of a, hopefully you can see that there's a little bit of a curve to it now, right? Right in here, there's a little bow of wood right here. So if I lay this down flat, it will not probably fit flat. There's probably a gap underneath there. Let's see if we can see a gap. Is there a little gap in there? Yeah, see there's a little gap underneath there? That was tension being released. It was cut flat, but then tension releasing, and I can push it down like this and see that. So the tension release made that flatten out. Thickness wise, I am at 0.27, which is where 0.25 is what I was looking at, like a quarter of an inch. But I wanted to go a little thicker because I know that as I got down to the end here, it kind of got a little thinner. So down this end, it's like, oh, 2.1 and 2.5, and down here, really skinny, 0.15. This end down here, for whatever reason, it's like at the end, it starts to kind of trail and move. That's okay. Most of my cutting is going to end up on this end anyway. And my thought is that when I put this on, I may just take a little off of here on the jointer just to make this a little flatter, because I need to tape this to my table. So you can see here, it's very wobbly. I need to tape this to, I've got a piece of MDF right here. And I use this MDF as a flat surface, and so I don't have to carve into my wasteboard on my CNC machine. I use this, I tape it to this, and then I clamp this down onto the CNC machine. But this allows me to see, there's, I don't know if you can see in here where I carved, you can see my name in there, because I had the bit going a little bit deeper than the wood itself. And that just ensures that I get a nice clean cut all the way through. That being said, it's not exactly, I might flatten this in the vise or something for a little while, just to kind of, maybe I'll wet it down and then put it in a vise for an hour or two, just to see if I can get that, because like I could put it in my vise right here and then flatten that. Let's see if it'll flatten. So that'd flatten a little bit. Anyway, so that's what we did. We got this down. Now I can use the CNC machine. I can mount that onto this piece of MDF and we can cut letters out. So that's kind of cool. So that's one thing I'm doing today, or I'm going to try to finish that today. I need to get the letters cut today. I need to get them glued in. I need this thing in the mail before the end of the week. So it needs to get moving, and it actually might take a couple of days to get there. So probably I should have this in the mail by no later than Wednesday, which means if I'm going to put a finish on it, which I would probably just do, I hate to say this, but I would probably just put a poly finish on there and have it poly finished for a day or so just before I ship it off in the mail. I don't like to wrap things and then have them shipped out before the finish has time to cure, because then, like, even if you bubble wrap or whatever, that might actually stick to the finish. That's bad. Anyway, this is good. Got this moving. This is the next part of my project. That'll be off camera. I will show it to you all once it's done. Once I'll save a picture and share you the photo, because like I said, I don't want to spoil the surprise. I don't know if the person who's getting it is watching, but if they are, because they do sometimes, and I don't want them to see it. So, surprise. All right. So that leads me into my next thing here, which is, oh my God, my fan's being really super noisy here. Hang on a second. That's going to bug me. So I'm going to, I have to prop it up and then it doesn't do this. There we go. All right, so the next thing, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn this fan on too, because it is just hot here. Just hot. That's all I'm saying. Oh. I'm like, why isn't this fan on? Because this fan actually has a pressure switch on the bottom, which does not allow it to turn on until it's sitting on a flat surface. Now it's on. Okay, we've got fans going again. It's 81 degrees in here, so it's a little warm, but we'll make it happen. All right, so the next thing, I think I was trying to think of where I'm going to in terms of projects. Obviously, the one is, you know, doing this inlays with the CNC machine, right? That's a personal project that I'm doing, and like I said, it's not one that I can share right now. So, and the other thing is doing CNC. CNC is cool. I love my CNC machine. It is money well spent for me anyway. But as far as content for the live stream, it's not great because you can't really see it doing anything. There's a dust shroud and it's just moving around like this and you can't really see it. And it's noisy because there's a router going and a fan, or the dust collection, both at the same time. It's just noisy. And so for you guys to watch that, and sometimes the carbs take half an hour, 45 minutes, really not great content for you guys. So I don't do a lot of that stuff on the stream. And that's why I end up making a lot of bases and such, because A, I sell the bases and they give me money. So that's a good thing. But B, it's nice kind of content that I can show you different skill sets and things that I like to do in terms of making my bases. So the blah, 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 blah. I'm not thinking very clearly here. So what was I going to say? Anyway, so moving forward, I bought all this lumber last week, and I've had some requests for something called a 301 base. I wish I had the 301 base here to show you, but I just boxed up my last one this morning. That's one of the ones that I had to put into a box, and it is going out in the mail today. But I had some requests for some. The ones that I had were two-toned. They were dovetail joints. So it was walnut on the edges, on the short edges, and then maple, figured maple on the long edges. They're really beautiful, but not everybody wants that. Some folks would like to just have a standard, like my cherry base that's stained dark. They just want one like that, but they want it in that style. And it is a different style. It's kind of a more, it's not as complex necessarily as some of the bases, but then again, it's not necessarily super simple either. So I thought maybe I would make a couple of those. Why am I seeing this one is like really delayed here or something? Wow, there's a super delay on the YouTube channel there. Not sure why. Anyway, I had a request for some in like a simple, you know, cherry type finish. And not everybody loves the contrasting woods with the dovetail, blah, blah, blah. Not everybody loves that. So I thought what I would do, since I did get a whole bunch of cherry, is that I would make some out of cherry and just make a couple of those 301 bases out of cherry. Now, I have a drawing here. Let me see if I can show you. We'll go to this one. So this is basically just a quick drawing that I did so that I can kind of figure out what I need to do to make these bases. And it gives me a general configuration of how they go together and the dimensionality and everything else. I've got it upside down, so it's a little harder for you to see, but it looks kind of like this. Now, as I was making these, I discovered I left some dimensions off. And I was like, well, because when I made my last batch, I had some that weren't quite fitting the way I wanted to. Yes, I just left the studio there. I left the shop. I'm going inside and I'm grabbing a piece of paper because I have added some dimensions to this drawing. So I'm going to come back. I did this morning. It's another thing I was doing this morning. So on this piece of paper right here, what I added was this dimension and this dimension. And these are the dimensions of the actual machine itself. How big is this? How big does this opening need to be right here to accommodate for these machines? And I like to have these very close tolerances. So it's the dimension lengthwise on these is 20 1/8 inches long, and widthwise is 7 7/8 inches. I then carve a rabbet little ledge along the inside that needs to be at least 19 1/4 inches by 6 15/16 inches to accommodate for the machine itself. And the cool thing is that there's there's a couple of CNC cuts on here. There's handles in the side like I normally do. And there's a couple little notches in here. There's a notch, and you can see it right here. I've got them right here, but there's also right here. There's notches carved in here that are accommodating a lid on this particular type of machine. There's a little lever lid, and it has where the little pins are for that lid, it has to have a notch cut in there. I had those already figured out on my CNC machine. So if I go in and look, I actually have these laid out to the exact dimension on my CNC, and it cuts them out for me. It cuts out the handles for me. So all of that stuff is good to go, but I needed to add this dimensionality of the machines on here so I could figure it out. So what does that mean for us right now? Well, it means we need some lumber to start with, right? We need some wood to add to this particular area right here. And this is going to be, so I need some wood that's basically 20 1/2 inches long, right? And I need some boards that are a little over 8 inches wide. That's basically what we're looking at. So in width-wise, these are kind of shallow, so they're only 2 1/2 inches deep. So it doesn't need to be very wide boards. So basically a board that's a little over 5 inches long will accommodate this entire process. So that's one thing I'm looking at doing, right? So let me show you the other thing. This is a little different. I wonder if I have any air left in here. That'd be cool if I did. No, I don't have any air left in there. Oh, this thing's so dusty. It's been sitting down here getting dusty. Hang on a second. I need to get my vacuum and just vacuum this thing off real quick, because it's quite dusty dirty. Let me get my brush here. Let me clean this off so I can show you what I'm looking at here. Okay, sorry about that. All right, this is from a friend who brought this over, and it came out of a table. Oh, God, I still missed a couple places. Hang on. Spiders, man. They are the bane of my existence, I tell you. Anywhere and everywhere, they will go where they can. So anyway, this is a an old white machine for those who are interested, and it came out of a table. This is the top of the table. This actually set into the table. There's a little hinge piece right here, which is kind of cool. I don't know what was back here. Something fit back here, but I have no idea what that was. Also, it was a treadle machine. She has a hand crank that will fit this. So she's like, I want to convert this to a hand crank. So I need a base for it. And we had a talk about what kind of thing to make for this, because this can be a little bit of a challenge or it can be kind of simple. And I'm trying to figure out which way to go with this. So the challenge part would be if I wanted to take this machine out of this, this piece of wood and put it into its own platform box. And yes, this is kind of this would be much more challenging. Anyway, if I took this out and I could put it into its own kind of box, it would need to accommodate for, obviously, for this, if I can get this thing, I can't remember, there it goes. It would need to accommodate for this, probably this portion under here, and then I think it should probably accommodate for the hinges and such. And then there's this pan underneath here. Now, the cool thing is, if you look at this, let me see if I can show it to you on this camera. So if you look at this, I'm going to move this over a little bit, maybe. Ah, there we go. Sorry about the view there, but I've already got the cutout area here that I would need if I was going to make a box and have this set inside, right? So I've already got this pattern already here where this actually sits. And it's like, well, I could do that, but I would have to like get paper and trace this and then size it and then carve it in the CNC to exactly fit. And I would also need these openings underneath because they would need to accommodate for all the little bits and bobs. Like notice right here, I don't know if you can see this, but right here, there's a little carved area on here. So these little circles were made in here to accommodate for this pin and this spring right here. And then over here, there's a little cutout notch right here that needs to accommodate for the release, the little release, tension release thing up here, or the release catch. And also this wheel has to have space to go down in there. And then here's a little thing right here, which needs to, I don't know what this does, but this interacts with this. This actually is supposed to be on here to keep this from tipping all the way over. So my thought is, okay, well it's starting to get really complicated now. And then you'll also notice there's little wedges in the back here where the hinges are. So it's kind of cut out for the hinges. And I'm like, okay, we just got really deep here. And I don't know that I want to go that deep. But, and which, you know, you got to give it to the people who actually manufactured these things way back when, because dang, if they didn't get it pretty much squared away. So let me put my camera down here for a second. And my thoughts being now is that if I made a box that this set in, right, or set on, I think that would probably be a really cool idea to actually keep this intact. This can all be cleaned up. It's got some crackling and stuff going on here, but this could all be cleaned up. I think that's the shellac that's just crack-a-lacking on top here. And probably if you take a little, and you know, I'm going to do it. I don't have a lot of it, but I'm going to get just a tiny bit of, not lacquer thin or anything. I want alcohol. I have some. I think I have a little bit of alcohol left. I have a tiny bit, tiny little bit. That's all I want anyway, because this is just a test. I need to get more alcohol. But generally, when you have lacquer that has lipped or is crackled and such, you can actually take care of that with some alcohol. Now, I'm not looking to restore this tabletop, but if you just take this and you rub it over top of that crackled, look at that coming off of there. It's like crazy. So I could use something like a restorer finish on here that might actually, that's removing dirt and grime. I'm gonna run it over here. And it's kind of making this a little tacky because it's reactivating that lacquer right there. So I could use some restorer finish or something like that on here to maybe basically re-loosen this stuff up and make it look nice again. So what I would do is take this off of here and then make a box to put this in. And then this could actually set in the box and I could keep these pieces right here. I could maybe mount this to the box. I don't know how I would do this though. Because I'd like her to be able to actually maintain this the way it is. And maybe I could lose this piece off the back here because there's just two hinges holding this on. So maybe I could lose this piece off the back and that already looks better. And then just make a box that this would sit in. And then that would kind of be the place for this to be for her to do a hand crank. Because for hand cranking, you don't need the whole machine. You just need this and you just need something to set this on the table or whatever. I think that would be kind of cool. And yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do with this. And what I could do is make it so that it's about a quarter of an inch, well, about a half an inch wider all the way around. So a half an inch wider on this side and a half an inch wider on each side, and then make a ledge that's this deep, and this thing would actually just sit inside the box. And I could easily do that. I would have to square the corners off instead of having rounded corners from my rabbet bit. I could have longer corners. I think I want to do that. I've had this for a while and I hate holding on to stuff. She's like, oh, whenever you get to it is fine. And whatever, she's so sweet. She's a sweet friend of the family. And I hate that I'm still holding on to this. So I want to see about making a box for this. I'll take these hinges off, but I'll keep this piece of wood. So if she ever wants to go back to this, it'll still be there. But I'll take this off and then I'll make a box that this can actually sit in. That kind of excites me because then we'll be using the old stuff and the new stuff. And that would be pretty cool. This is, I think, this is really old plywood because I can see layers in here. And then it's veneered, but I think there's different areas of wood and such in here. And then there's a really thick veneer on top, which is very, very common in older machines like this. They used early plywood was made of thick veneers, so maybe 1/8 of an inch thick veneers. Plywood pressed together, and then they would put a thinner veneer on of a pretty wood on top of it, and that's how they used to make veneers or make plywood, and they would veneer it for furniture and things like this. But that's pretty cool. So really what I would need to do is figure out how much wood I would need for this. And I would make a cherry base out of this too. This is not very thick. Let me put it on the tabletop instead of this little cushy thing. Let's do this. And she's going to pay me for it. It's not like I'm doing this for free. She's going to pay me for it. So depending on what I want to charge for it, but I don't want to make something that's going to cost a lot of money for her. I'd like to have something. So I think probably if I do 2.5 inches deep on this, that would be more than accommodating, I think, because this is actually touching the ground at 2 1/4 inches. I might go 2 3/4. 2 3/4 might do it because I'm going to put a bottom to the box, not just, even though I wouldn't really need to. This has a little base thingy. I wonder, I could probably keep the cost down if I actually didn't put a bottom in it. That would be interesting because it has the little catch basin down there. I wonder if it needs a bottom. I'll put a bottom in it. That's just what I do. All right, so 2 3/4, but we would need to make this. So if I do a 1/2 inch on each side, all right, so 1/2 inch. So this is 19 inches. Ooh, that's nice, and I like nice standard sizes. So I would need to go 19, I need a piece of wood 19.5 inches. And then over here, I would need a piece of wood that is, we're gonna go right to there. We need a piece of wood that is 10 3/4 inches. So what did I say, 19.5 by 10 3/4? That's doable, right? By 2 3/4 inches tall. So that is very doable. Let me get my old plans here because I'm going to keep track of the woods that I need to make, the number of boards. So that's kind of project planning here. So I'm going to need 2 times 19.5, 19.5 inches. And then I need 2 times, what did I say, 10 3/4? I believe I'm going to double check that just to make sure here. 10, let me go 1/2 inch past there. And a 1/2 inch past there, 10 3/4. So 10 3/4. So 2 at 10 3/4. And these are, I'm going to get the times out of there so I don't think that's a dimension. 2 dash 19.5 by, what did I say, 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 by 3/4 of an inch, because that's my standard. And this will be 10 3/4 by 2 3/4 by 3/4. Okay. So this, now I have a cut list for this. And it's because I'm just making a box and it's going to set inside the box. It kind of keeps it really simple. There are a couple little weird little things on here. Like there's a little round tube thing sitting in the side here, which I will probably need to chisel out a little area in the box for that, but that's okay. That'll be simple to do. That's just a 1/4 inch chisel, shave a little wood out of the edges for this to fit into. But that's pretty good. So I'm going to need a couple of wide boards. And then while we're making cut list here, and this is all going to be for the cherry, right? So for the cherry, to make one of these, I would need basically stop it. My fan's blowing it. I'm going to need there we go. 20, we'll call it 20.5 right now. So I need 20.5 by 8 1/4. We're just going to call it 8 1/4, or not by, but 8 1/4. These are 2.5 inches tall. So 20.5 by 2.5 by 3/4. And this is by 2.5 by 3/4. Okay, and 2 of those gets me. So now I need to figure out how much wood do I have and how much of these can I make. Okay, so let's go look at a board. Piece of cherry. Let me find some cherry over here because we just got a nice shipment of stuff. I'm going to move this walnut board out of the way because it's sitting in my cherry stock at the moment. There we go. So here's a shorter cherry board. It's short, but it's really wide. And I have 4 of these. Well, this is the shortest of them. But I have 4 of these. All right, I'm going to set this off to the side now. I don't need this any longer, this machine. Kind of excited about that. She's been waiting. She's a very patient soul. It's the same one I did, if you saw me do the restoration of the toy sewing machine table, where I made new legs. I basically made a new table for it. So that same lady. Okay, let me stick my little name plaque over here and put this board up here real quick. And let's just kind of look at this and see what we can get measurement wise just out of this particular board right here. This is just a piece of cherry. It's really pretty. It's got some lovely grain. This is flat sawn. You can see by the cathedral shapes in here. That's what gives away the fact that it's flat sawn. But in cherry, I find that to be the most attractive. This is a very wide board. I think this thing's 10 inches, over 10, it's 10 and a half inches. So what we need to figure out is, okay, if I need 19 and a half inches, okay, and I'm just gonna rough these out. So I'm gonna call that 20 inches, just ballpark it, because I haven't squared off the corners or anything. So at 20 inches, so this thing is 40, all right, so there's 40 inches. Okay, and we said 2 3/4 wide. So I'm going to make a mark here, 2 3/4 wide. I'm just going to say 3 and just ballpark it to 3 inches and see what I can get for 3 inches here. Because I'm just looking at yield. I'm looking at what I can get out of these boards yield-wise. Kind of need a long piece of measuring thing for this. Actually, I have a yardstick which will just do the trick here. Just for giggles, I just want to draw on these just to figure out what we can yield out of these and how much. You know, I don't mind dipping into the other boards, but I want to see what I can get out of this, because that in turn will let me know what I've got to work with for making like the 301 bases, right? So I said 40 inches on here. So that goes to right there. Because the other thing I need out of these boards are, I need the width. I need the side pieces. So I can't get those out of here, I don't think. What do I got left on here? I get 8 inches. So really, I could probably get one of my side pieces out of here. So I'm going to measure 3 inches on here and just figure this as being one of my side pieces. Now these are not exact cut lines. They're just, like I said, I'm just basically looking at yield right now as to what can I get. And that's why I oversize these things. I don't need them to be this long or these wide, but so I can get one 8-inch board out of that. That board does not go with this particular set of dimensions I'm making, but it can go to the 301. And anything I can use, like I said, I try to minimize my waste. So if I can squeeze a 301 board out of here to go with my my white machine base that we're looking at, absolutely, I will do that. Next, I'm going to need 10 3/4 inches. So I'm going to say 11 inches from here, which would give me 22 inches, right? To get those two sides. So we're going to call that 22 inches. So 22 inches. And we're looking at 3 inches down from here. So the same thing. So 3 inches. Let me get a different ruler here so I can mark these. And so I just said 3 inches because that's what I had used. So there's our 3 inch mark. And I'm just getting a couple of marks here for me to draw lines with. 3-inch mark there, and a 3-inch mark off of this one. Because like I said, they're not going to be 3 inches. They'll actually be less than 3 inches, but that gives me room to play with. So let me get these lines lined up. That looks pretty good. And then these boards being over 10 inches, the nice thing is that they can accommodate at least three widths of boards at 3 inches. So I've got right here, and then at 22 inches is what I said, basically my measurement there, or 11 inches, I mean. So I'm going to draw another one right here. And then I'll give me my 11 inches right here for this particular piece. Nice. Okay. I didn't measure these out. I probably should have. What did I say? These were 20 inches. So let me do this one, 20 inches. And that's, make sure that's 40 right there. Yeah. So I've got these now laid out. So I've got the boards laid out for the white box. Okay. So I've got, I'm going to just label these white. I've got side A and side B. So A, just keep it straight in my head. That's A. And that's B. So I've got A1 and A2. So A1 and A2. And then B1 and B2 here. B1 and B2. So there you go. So there's my white machine right there. Boom. I got the boards right there. So you can see where I've labeled those. A1, A2, B1, B2. Down at the end here, I'm left with an 8-inch piece left over, give or take. I mean, we'll see. When I start milling these up, I'm going to lose some dimensionality here, but that's what I'm trying to account for on here. I can do another lane here. So on my other machine, my 301, I need 20.5 inches, which I can definitely get 20.5-inch lengths out of here. So I'm going to call these 21s. Okay, so we will call these 21 inches just to give me some play room. So at 21 inches, right here, and then we will go to another 21 inches right here. Now, I actually have room on the end of this, and I can pull 21 inches out of the end of this board. So this is awesome. So 21 right here. I mean, I've got a little left over on this board. I've got about 5 inches left over, but that's okay. I would rather have a 5-inch piece left over than like a 10-inch piece. So that's why I plan this stuff out to try, like I said, I'm always trying to figure out how much I can squeeze out of here. So let's go here. All right. I'm just going to draw this line down because this is going to give me my yield. This one. And we're just going to draw our little straight line here. So this is kind of the process I go through. Sometimes it's easier than this. Sometimes it's harder than this. Just depends on what I'm making. If I'm making a bunch of mixed size things, then it's like, oh, crud, you know, now I'm not sure what to do. On these, I'm going to call these C and D. So C is going to have, for one, it'll have 2 parts. So here's part 1. So this will be C1. And then I made a mark on this one because it was 22 inches, right? 21 inches, I'm sorry, 21 inches. This one was 21 inches. Awesome. So C1. Now, the thing I am going to say is that I'm not going to have enough to do, let's see, I'm not going to have enough to do all of the, well, yeah, I will. Okay, I'm going to get 2 whole bases out of this thing here. And these are long. There's just long pieces of wood here. Very long, but necessary. All right, I'm going to just mark my lines here. I'm sorry. The next one will go quicker because I'm going to be making the same board sizes. I'm not going to be mixing it up as much. But this gets me started on this particular board when I get milling. And that's really what I'm after right now, is to get, you know, okay, well, can I use this piece of wood for this? And what else can I get out of here? And okay, that looks good. Because I am all about maximizing my lumber use, because lumber, not cheap. All right, so that was C1. Here is my side C2, because I need those sides. So that's the front and back. And then I need the sideboards. Those will be my D pieces. Those are only 8 1/4. I'm going to say 8 1/2 just for giggles. So 16, 17 inches. Gives me 2 of those. That's easy. I get 17. That's going to give me 2 of these. It's going to give me 8 1/2. The nice thing is that this is actually going to give me a little extra here too. 2, 3. I'm going to get a little extra wood left over this, so that's kind of nice. So I can actually continue for my next batch on here. I think I'll have at least 1 extra piece left here. 3. Now, hang on a second. How much did I make that? Oh, I made, well, that's weird. That's a weird drawing right there. How thick is this one? That's 3. Well, I screwed this line up here. Let me fix this line right here. This is 3 inches right here. I was like, why does this not line up? Because I'm a doofus. Pure and simple, just doofus. You're in the presence of a doofus. That would be me. King Doofus. There we go. Okay, that's more better. Just to get my lines sort of straight here. Much more better. It was a little angular there, and it shouldn't be. Okay, I'm going to set it right here. There we go. And then draw these lines here. All right. So hopefully, I mean, it's probably hard for you to see on here, but this is D1 and D2. D1, D2. All right, so my project board is now broken into different sections. And each of these bases that I'm going to be making really has 2 sides and a front and a back. So 2 long boards, 2 short boards. Both of them are the same way. For the first one, I've got long board 1 and long board 2. I've got short board 1, short board 2. And then for here, I've got long board 1, long board 2, short board 1, short board 2. Now the beauty is I actually have 2 pieces left over here on the ends that will be additional sideboards for the 301 bases. So it would be like another D1 and D2 that I would have left over here. And that will in turn give me enough wood to you know, carry this into the next board and keep on going. So I think I've got enough here to really do a couple of batches of 301s as we're going here. So what I want to do at this point, I think I want to mill these into 3-inch wide boards. And I'm going to get I'm going to get one more because I'm going to make more than one 301 base. I'm going to get another piece of wood. Now that I know, that I can accommodate those on here, I'm going to get another piece of cherry that is also this width, and cut some 3-inch boards out of that. And then once they're 3 inches, I can start jointing and flattening and everything else once we figure out how much yield we got out of that board. But in order to cut this down, I need a very flat edge. So while these have been cut at the factory, this edge, I don't know if it's flat enough. I mean, it's got a couple of little, it's not perfectly flat on here, right? It rocks. So you can see it rocking right there. So it's not perfectly flat on here. It's pretty flat, but it's got some room to give. And we're going to take this over to the jointer first and maybe joint just one really nice flat edge on it. And then that is the edge that we will use against the fence to cut our 3-inch wide strips, okay? I think I'm going to joint this edge. So let's look at taking this over to the jointer. I don't think I have a jointer cam set up still. I think this one was set for there. We'll pull you back over here to the jointer. Now, I'm not going to be doing too much with this today because, like I said, I do have a doctor's appointment today that I need to get to, and we can't be late for the doctor. They can be late for us, but we apparently cannot be late for them, so it is what it is. So let's go ahead and get a flat edge here. Let's do that. I'm looking at my grain direction on this board. I always want to joint downhill. So my grain direction is going this way. It's running this way, which is the way I want it to go. I don't want it feeding in like this because then the blades catch that edge. So it's going down this way. That's downhill. All we're looking at doing here is getting a flat edge on this side of the board. And I need to move this out a little bit because I don't have room. So hang on just a second. Little shop rework here. Not the first time that's happened, won't be the last time. But we just need to pull things out like this. And there we go. I don't have wheels on this thing, so I just kind of have to pick it up and shove it. But that's all the room I needed. Right there, we're still in frame. That's all that counts. Okay, this was some pretty straight cherry. Now it's very straight cherry. This is still rough cut. This is still rough cut, but this edge is straight, which means we can now take it over to the saw and run it through over here. So I'm gonna come back over here, and I have no idea what do I still have a camera set up over here? I do, look at that. Okay, now I'm gonna have to make some room back here because as I'm running this through, I need to see how far it's going to go back in here and hit stuff. So I need to move stuff out of the way so that we don't, excuse me, clear the decks over on my table over here. So I'm going to just quickly just kind of come over here and start moving some stuff. This can go back over where it goes. Just move some tools out of the way because we need to definitely not knock tools off the table. Put my pencils down and get my, that's my spreader. Get my dimensions over here. All right, I think we've got enough room now. These are just spare blocks that I'm going to throw in the garbage. And my straw that's been used enough that it can go in the garbage as well. I think we're good to go now. My tape. So I think we've got enough room. Okay. I think we're good. Let me put this naphtha and the other stuff away. We definitely have enough spare area here to kick this through. All right. Now, we cleaned this edge right here. So I could cut these in like the 3-inch strip off of this side. That would be one way to do it. So that would put the cut right here, which would be very much on the edge of my stuff right over here. Let's go back to 3. I think we can do that. So I'm going to set my table to 3 inches. And then we will get a 3-inch cut off of this board. Now this one, the same way, has a little bit of a rock to it, like this. You can see, so I put it on the table here, it's got a little bit of a rock this way. So I want to make sure, like I said before, that I'm not cutting so that they collapse in on each other so that they fall away. To do that, you make sure that the smiley face is up. All right, let me make sure my blade, it's maybe a little high for this piece of wood. There we go. And this is going to clear. Is that going to clear? Oh, that's going to just cut my, I hate it when it does that. I need to run it this way. Okay, I will run this way, which is fine. Let's see, power is in. The hose is not. So let's hook up the hose and make a cut. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to get these into longer boards, and then I can actually start putting them on the jointer and the planer and getting them into my dimensional lumber that I can use for these projects. All right. So I'm going to pull this back here. I think we're good. I need my earphones and my remote for the dust collection, which I have right here. And now we can start cutting the boards. My saw was not liking them because there was some real cupping going on there. So it wasn't really enjoying that very much. But that's why I cut these wider than I need them, because when I clean them up, they're not going to be as wide as this. So I can get them dimensional after they've been flattened and everything else. But anyway, I've got these three now, right? So there's three right there. And look at all the, ooh, look at the burn marks on that puppy. Cherry likes to burn. So I'm going to set these aside, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another board here. I'm going to grab another cherry board, and I've got another one right here. It should be, let me check, let me grab my tape measure. It should be, I think it's the exact same width. I think this is the other half of that particular board. And let's see here. Yeah, so this is the other half of that board. Now I'm going to go ahead and I want to get these cut down. In order to do that, I actually need to joint this board as well. So I have that straight edge, right? Because this does not have that flat edge yet. So let me go back to jointer cam right here. And let's flatten, let's see which way I'm going to run this through the jointer here, which will tell me which edge I want to do. I guess this way, and then can run through. Yeah, so we'll do it this way. And oh, is this going to fit? Man, not quite. I need to pull this forward just a hair. Just a hair. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let's get this straight and flat, and then we can go back to the table. That's pretty good. As far as edges go, that one was actually pretty flat, so pretty good. All right, we're going to go back to camera number 3 right there. Let me make sure there's, okay, no one in the comments today. It's a very quiet day today. No one wants to watch milling. I understand. I get it. Milling's boring. But it's a necessary evil. So let me, oh, is this longer? Am I going to have room to do this one? Let's find out. Is this going to come all the way down here? Woo! This one might hit some stuff. I got to move some stuff out of the way here. Move some stuff down, out of the way, because I think this one's going to be just a little long, just a little bit. We don't want to knock things over, right? So let's see if we can, yeah. I might have to, this camera right here bugged me. Might have to move this camera out of the way. And then move this out of the way, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. All this stuff needs to be out of the way. There we go. Okay. I think we're good now. We were a little long there, but I think we're in good shape now. Got my nice edge over here. I want to make sure that I'm going to run this smiley face up, and then we're back to this. Okay, so I've got 3 more boards here that we can certainly use for 301 bases. Now, if you remember, way back when we were doing our measuring, because I don't, but when we were doing our measuring, we had 2 boards left over that we could use as inboards for 301 bases. So that means I can now figure out on these, you know, what I could get for my 301 bases on here. So at basically 21 inches, I think is what I said. So 42 inches at 42 inches, I now have the front of another base, front and back of another base, and then I have area left over for an end piece. And then, so basically this right here would give me one left over. And then another one 42 inches, and then another one left over. So right here is enough for another base. And then I would need some extra wood right here, which I think I've got an 8-inch long piece of spare cherry that I could use. So I can get basically 3 more bases out of here. So total of 4 301 bases, plus my other big base for the white machine is what I'm looking at ballpark yield-wise out of here. If I was going to do more, I would probably take the time to mill up another piece of cherry. I have 2 more large, wide pieces of cherry like this, but I think for right now, I think this is really good. Now, the other thing I look at, okay, when I'm going to be doing this, and before I actually start cutting these into sectional pieces, is I look at the actual face grain to see which pieces, because my bases are going to be like, it's a wide base, right? And it has a nice wide face in front. I want at least one really pretty face grain to go on that front of there. The sides and the back, I don't really care. I don't know why I'm still wearing these. The sides and the back, I don't care as much what the grain looks like. Like this piece right here probably ends up being rift sawn. It is. And what happens is you get a lot of very straight grain in here. There's not a lot of figure. There's not a lot of there's basically no arching or anything, because this is off of the edges of that flat sawn. The prettiest wood is going to come right out of the middle. So I would probably look at making my faces out of the middle boards, because that's going to have the prettiest grain. It's the widest separation between the grain lines and things like that. And it gives you the prettiest grain. So I always want to look at that when I get ready to actually cut these into the lengths, is look at the actual grain on the boards themselves and figure out, okay, well, that's straight grain. That'd do well on the sides or the back, okay? It's not really what I want for the front. So I always try to pick the prettiest pieces, not always successful, but try to pick the prettiest pieces to go onto the face or the front of these bases. And I will have 3 of them. So probably 2 of the face boards will come out of this board and this board. And then the rest of the pieces will come out of, you know, the sides for here and here. So anywho, where are we at now? What time is it? Oh, shoot. It's after 1 o'clock, which means I need to get moving here. That's all we have time for today. That kind of went faster than I thought it would. So that is all we have time for today, because I have a doctor's appointment. I have to go to the post office and a couple of other things. And then I have to come back here and do some CNC work for that sign that you don't get to see yet, but it'll look awesome, hopefully. But anyway, so that's all we're at today. Should I say this? Milling? Maybe I'll mill some of this up and get it kind of flowing and started. I have 6 boards to mill down now. I have 6 3-inch wide boards. They are quite thick. This is 4/4, so they are basically just a hair over an inch thick, and they need to be 3/4 of an inch for finished project pieces. So they need a lot of milling. They're going to go through the jointer, and I'm going to joint them and get a flat edge. Then they're going to go over to the planer, and we're going to shrink them down to 3/4 of an inch, get them the perfect width, and then they'll go back over to the table saw, where we will take them to their final width not thickness, but width. And that's when we will start really figuring out which boards are going to go with which project, because then we can start the construction part. But I'm going to save that kind of stuff for at least Wednesday to give us something to do, because I've got some other project stuff that's going to take up my afternoon here. Maybe tomorrow I need to work on this project. So I may not get back to these boards until Wednesday, which is great because then we can just pick up where we left off today. So that being said, have a wonderful rest of your day. It's Monday. Go out and make this your week. Own it. Take it. Make it your own. All right? Do something good. Have fun with it. Because you know what? Life's too short not to have a little fun along the way. That's what I say. And I'm done having my fun for the day because I got to go to the doctor. It was never fun. But anyway, it won't be horrible. I promise. I will see you back here on Wednesday. Have a great afternoon and come see me 11 o'clock Wednesday. Maybe we'll get some chatters on Wednesday. That'd be fun. Take care. See you then.